So I've been wanting to make another one of these. I want to make more live commentary stuff. It's very relaxing, kind of cathartic, away from the editing and the writing and the research and the stuff that I normally do, whether you think I do it or not. The gameplay in the background is just a little bit of Team Fortress 2 Classic, fitting in line with recent events, which we, may talk about, but who knows? One of the things that I've been doing a lot of recently is going back and watching a lot of old Jerma content in light of the fact that he's recently announced that he's going to be, retiring from streaming, I guess. Which is more like a, hobby thing. It's no longer going to be a full-time employment type deal like he's been doing for the past couple of years. And a video that he made a long time ago that kind of sits with me is the video that he made about his dog passing away. It's kind of like sensitive. It's a sensitive topic, death, right? But a couple days ago, yesterday morning, I woke up and I got out of bed and I walked to the living room, and my cat had passed away in the middle of the night. Now, for you, that might sound a little shocking. Brother, you may know Brother. He was in a couple of videos. He was more frequently seen in the background of the streams and things like that. But Brother was a cat that I had for probably 2 or 3 years. I think like 3 years, actually. He was a stray, a part of a family of strays, actually, that we took in. His brother and the mother, Bella, they're both still alive and well, and they're still with me. I took all 3 of them with me when I moved. Brother was just the name of the cat that I had given him, because at one point we were not naming them, we were just calling them by their roles, and he was the brother, Bella was mama, and Charlie was the first one we named because we couldn't also call him brother. But after we named Charlie, my niece gave Bella her name, and Brother just kind of stuck. I liked the name. I didn't want to change it, so we didn't. But Brother passed away yesterday, January 18th, 2024. And I knew that he was sick for a little while, and I tried to get him some medical attention. It just wasn't something that I could do. I couldn't afford it, and because I couldn't afford it, no vet would see him. And every idea that I had under the sun, it would have just taken too long. But I did, near the end there, did actually try to get, insurance and vet care credit, stuff like that. On the recommendation of Amanda, my friend, she sent me those links and she told me to try them, and I told her then it would take too long, but I did end up trying. It just wasn't something that I didn't think I would get approved for in time to get him any sort of medical help. But, and I didn't, because the day that I started, or the day before that I started, the night that we had the conversation, he had passed away the next morning. And it's always a little bit sudden, usually, death for a lot of people, but Brother I knew was sick for about a couple weeks, the last couple of weeks, I would say. His condition got better near the end, but then all of a sudden it got worse. On the 17th, I had noticed he was very, very lethargic and not moving and staying in one spot, and when I picked him up, he was still alive at this point, mind you, but when I picked him up, he was just stiff as a board. Like, he stayed almost in the position that he was in, lying down. And if you've grown up on a farm at all, like me, where you have a lot of strays, dogs and cats and whatever wanders through the fence, you know that that is the sign that they are going to die. At that point, there's really not a lot you can do about it. He wasn't whining or mewing or anything like that. He just kind of sat there and was just stiff as a board, really. And for the past couple of weeks, I noticed he'd been getting worse and worse and worse, and he was not eating anymore. I don't think. I can't say for sure with 100% certainty, but I know that I would feed them, and he'd walk over to the food bowl, because they all ate out of one big bowl. He'd walk over to it, and he would sit in front of it, and I never actually watched to see if he was eating. And it occurs to me, now, in the wake of things, that I don't think he ever actually ate anything. He was just going to the food bowl, because that's, I guess, what he always did. Now, his death, I did my fair share of, whining and crying and things like that. I'm okay. It wasn't like a family pet that I had for 15-something years, but it's still not pleasing, I guess would be the word that I would use. But he's gone now, and I can't do anything about it. He's buried out there in the backyard where you would normally bury a pet, backyard. I'm not, rich. I can't do that rich person thing where they bury their pets in pet cemeteries or whatever, but it happens. So with all that being said, he's gone. I'm gonna try to throw up a couple of pictures here. He walked around in the back of the streams, and he was in a video, I think the Two Fort video, once. So yeah, he's gone. It's whatever. So let's talk about some more, topical news, I guess. About a week and a half ago, I guess, I haven't been keeping track, Valve kind of went on a little tirade, or so people thought. So there was a lot of talk for a little while about Valve taking down fan projects, TF2 Source 2 and Portal 64 and all this other stuff. And now we know that, they didn't take them down all willy-nilly just because they could. And there's no sort of reason to believe that Valve has changed their stance on modding, which they've always been entirely open to doing. Letting people do and allowing them to do it. We know now that it was because of, stolen assets or libraries for the Nintendo 64 that the guy wasn't meant to be using, and we know all of that now, but for a little while there was kind of a scare. I've always believed that Valve is the best at what they do. Nearly everything they make or have a hand in has turned out to be pretty great, excepting for things like maybe Artifact or Ricochet, I guess. But, Valve as a company, I have a lot of respect and nostalgia for. Not only did playing their game, give me a somewhat reasonably popular TF2 channel, but also, Half-Life, Half-Life 2, I mean, you can't really go wrong with games like that. And I just think that they're the best at what they do. And watching a lot of content about the takedowns and the DMCAs and the bot problem, as we know now, is kind of a treadmill issue. You can't really easily fix something like that. You can try, but it's a lot harder said. I mean, it's a lot harder done than said. Or easier said than done, as most people would say. But even with all of that, I I just don't think that there's any reason to believe that Valve would ever go down that road of doing what Nintendo does and just taking down anything that uses their IP all willy-nilly. Yes, they have the legal right to do it, but that doesn't mean it's always fair. And Valve, even though they're very open to doing things like that, they do have standards and limits, you know. I think actually one of their big no-nos is porting a game they already make to another engine, just flat out, which is what both of those things were doing. Not to say they're always going to be, you know, striking them down. I mean, Black Mesa is incredibly successful and popular, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that Valve explicitly gave them approval. They sought approval, and Valve gave it to them. And not only that, but almost everything in that game was remade from the ground up to be used in Black Mesa. So it wasn't just they ripped all the models and the assets from Half-Life and just started using them in the Source engine. I mean, if they wanted to do that, Valve had already done all of that. But Black Mesa, you know, stands to reason that Black Mesa is the example of what a good port or a good mod with, you know, the company behind it can do. It's just that when you make a game like TF2 Source 2, where you're just aiming to port the game to Source 2, even as a fan project, even if it is with no ill will behind it, you know, that doesn't sit well with people. So, I didn't like all of the doom and gloom that cropped up almost immediately following it. People jumping to conclusions about Valve and their actions and their stances, and you know, Save TF2 cropped back up. I'm sure it still is cropping up on Twitter, but, you know, that's neither here nor there. I'm not really going to talk about any of that, but, you know, I don't know how I feel about it yet. We're going to wait that out and see. Just to end things off here, I do stream quite a bit. I don't really have a set schedule. It's just kind of whenever I feel like it at this point. I stream on Twitch and YouTube. You know, pick your poison. You know, it's usually Fridays or Saturdays, or, you know, and I'm thinking about reopening the TF2 server up to, you know, have a place to go to play the game where we don't have to worry so much about, you know, hackers or anything like that. But I don't know if you've been watching. I do like TF2 Classic quite a bit. I'm thinking about streaming that sometime soon. It's actually a pretty good mod, and it's, you know, it's an example of what I mean by Valve will let you mod their games. TF2 Classic and Open Fortress, I know there was some misinformation going on for a little while that those mods had also been DMCA'd. They never were. I think they got paused for downloads so Valve and the teams behind them could talk about them, but they never actually got DMCA'd themselves. So maybe look forward to a TF2 Classic stream, you know, sometime soon. And, you know, this is all over the place. Lots of silence and ums and buts and, you know, whatever. But that's kind of the point, is to just cut some footage and talk about whatever's on my mind. So hopefully, I'm thinking more of this is going to, you know, become more of a normal, regular thing, because I do like making them. They're kind of easy. I can just sit down and make them and talk to you for 10-15 minutes. So with all that being said, I'll see you later. Overwatch videos coming, I promise. Goodbye.